What comes into your mind when you hear the words pop art? With this presentation, we are about to help you delve deeper into the world of pop art. We hope that after this, you get a chance to know and define pop art on what it truly is. The main question is, what is pop art? So way back in 1960s, Lawrence Alloway coined the term pop art for the majority to use and name it out in the open. So pop art is an art movement that rose and became what it is today during the late 1950s and 60s. Pop art can be identified way back through the usage of commonplace objects like comic strips, soup cans, road signs, and hamburgers. And it was labeled as an anti-art as it breaks all the stereotypes or typical contemporary art standards. Therefore, pop art is a unique art movement that has diverse aspects and aims to change the game of the contemporary art standards that were established before. Moving on, let's get to know a bit of pop art's history. It began in the mid-1950s in Britain and was initiated by a group of painters, sculptors, writers, and critics called Independent Group. So pop art goes way back to its roots by a cultural revolution, and its focus is to restructure its nation's social order that was ruled by conformity. So as pop art gradually became a stagnant art movement during those days, Richard Hamilton then presented his collage titled Just What It Is That Makes Today's Home So Different, So Appealing at year 1956, and that starts the official beginning of the cultural phenomenon of the art movement. So here is Richard Hamilton's iconic pop art that started the phenomenon. So this pop art defined the rise of consumer society. So as I have mentioned before, pop art started from its roots in Britain. So here we have the history of pop art from the perspective of Britain and also how it rose and opened its gates for the United States as it became who it is today. So in Britain, pop art started as only an academic-centered inquiry. In the year 1952 to 55, a diverse group of people would meet at the Institute of Contemporary Art in London so that they could discuss topics such as car styling or pop magazine. The independent group would commit to an extensive understanding or a wide range of understanding of culture as they are also the one who made up the first generation of the British pop. So as years passed by, many people became more interested in the art movement. A second generation emerged that were ruled by Peter Blake, Pauline Botti, Richard Smith, and Joey Tilson. One of the most notable artists in this second generation, Peter Blake helped design the iconic image of British pop art, the album cover of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. As you can see, the album depicts the Beatles surrounded by the images of famous figures from history and pop culture. So now that we know where pop art started, let us also get to know how pop art spread across the world, especially in the United States. So here we have the history of pop art in the United States. Pop art in the US started to develop about 1962 to 1964 and was much more provocative or assertive than what it was originally from. So pop art was introduced to the US through an assemblages or a gathering. So in the viewpoint of the US, its aim was to be more objective and would produce an art that is universally accepted. So as pop art became popular in that area, critics were also expected and they described the movement as a vulgar. Some also said that the art is democratic and non-discriminatory, meaning it could unite both non and trained viewers. So one of the most famous pop art artists in the US, Roy Lichtenstein, was known for his comic strip-like magazine designs of pop art. So as other artists who created pop art were also very clever in expressing their social criticisms within their creation.
Pop artist. Andy Warhol's name has become synonymous with the American pop art. Warhol's works typify many aspects of the movement, like an obsession with celebrity, the repetition of images, and the use of advertising as well. Warhol began painting in the late 1950s and received sudden notoriety in 1962. When he exhibited paintings of Campbell's soup cans, Coca-Cola bottles, and wooden replicas of Brilliant soap pad boxes. His most notable series includes Campbell's soup cans. depictions of Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis and the death and the disaster. So Warhol's work placed him in the forefront of the emerging pop art movement in America. So throughout the 1970s and until his death, he continued to produce prints depicting political and Hollywood celebrities, notable Marilyn Monroe. He also involved himself in a wide range of advertising, illustration, and other commercial art projects. So these are one of the Andy Warhol's works. The Campbell Soup Can. In 1968, these are perhaps the most well-known images of American modern art. Initially created as a series of 32 canvases in the 1962, the soup cans gained international acclaim as a breakthrough in the pop art. And one reason why Warhol chose the Campbell soup can motif was because it connected so closely to ordinary life. And the second one is the Marilyn Diptych or Diptych. Is a silkscreen painting by American pop artist Andy Warhol depicting Marilyn Monroe. The monumental work is one of the artist's most noted of the movie star. The painting consists of 50 images. Warhol used a publicity photo for her 1953 film Niagara as the source image. And the use of two contrasting canvases for Marilyn Diptych illustrates the contrast between the public life of the star, who at the time was it is one of the most famous women alive in her private self. So next is Roy Lichtenstein or Lichtenstein, known for his use of the primary colors and bold outlines. Lichtenstein's signature style referenced the comic books from which he derived from of his early source material. So Lichtenstein used to bend dots to evoke the comic style across his canvases and sculpture. Drowning Girl, Wham, and Look Mickey are regarded as his most influential works. In the style of the comic strips, he used words to express sound effects. He began to manipulate to his own ends the graphic and linguistic conventions of comic strips dealing with such genres, romance, war, and science fiction. And also, Lichtenstein continued this vein for much of his career, and his artworks are readily identifiable by their comic strip characteristics. So these are the works of Roy Lichtenstein. Drowning Girl, also known as The Secret Hearts or I Don't Care, I'd Rather Sing, is a 1963 American painting in oil and synthetic polymer paint on canvas by Roy Lichtenstein based on original art by Tony Abruzzo. The painting is considered among the Lichtenstein's most significant works, perhaps on a par with his acclaimed 1963 Diptych Wham, one of the most representative paintings of the pop art movement. Drowning Girl was acquired by the Museum of the Modern Art in 1971. And next one is the Look Mickey, also known as Look Mickey, is 1961 oil canvas painting by Roy Lichtenstein, widely regarded as the bridge between his abstract expressionism and pop art. Look Mickey marks Lichtenstein's first full employment of the painterly techniques to reproduce almost faithful representations of pop culture, and so satirize and comment upon the developing process of the mass production of visual imagery. And lastly, the Wham. Wham is a 1963 diptych painting by the American artist Roy Lichtenstein. It is one of the best-known works of the pop art, and among Lichtenstein's most important paintings. Wham! was first exhibited at the Leo Castelli Gallery in New York City in 1963 and purchased by the Tate Gallery, London in 1966. It has been on the permanent display at the Tate Modern since 2006. And next is the Robert Rockenberg. Robert Rockenberg was one of the the early innovators of silkscreen printing, taking advantage of the new commercial printmaking process to transfer photographs and images to the canvas. By the early 1960s, the established Rockenberg, along with Jasper Johns, were at the center of the new and vibrant pop art movement. Rockenberg radically blended materials and methods to create remarkable pop art collages. And one of his most notable works, Retroactive 2, and created in the 1964. Also, it was the silkscreen image that featured a portrait of John F. Kennedy and the NASA astronaut among the other images, mixed and recombined in an interesting way. And also, Rockenberg's restless, unconventional creativity and capacity for the experiment lends his art as a unique breadth of vision. And also, both Rockenberg and Johns are frequently cited as the important forerunners of American popular art. So these are one of his works, famous works. I searched a Retroactive too, but there's no such information about it. So Retroactive to oil, silkscreen, and ink on canvas. It is a art by Robert Rockenberg. And lastly, the David Hockney. David Hockney helped pioneer the British pop art movement in the 1960s, creating a semi-abstract paintings and experimenting with a wide range of media. And his work at 1967, A Bigger Splash, was one of the multiple pop art paintings that centered around swimming pools. A Bigger Splash was a fascination that grew after he moved to California and recognized the relaxed schedule by which residents live in that area. His pop art movement was about making art more accessible and fun. He also to depict his closeness to relationship with the real people in his life. And one of his famous paintings is of his mom and dad, called My Parents 1977, using bright colors, giving an overall expression of love and familiarity. This is one of his work, A Bigger Splash. Hockney was interested in using paint to capture transparent materials such as water and fleeting moments like the splash. The 1960s are often seen as the time that Britain emerged from the difficulties of the post-war years into a period of optimism. This colorful work seems to reflect this feeling. So this is the famous work of David. This picture, my parents, is David's nostalgia for his childhood, for the simple and understandable world. Beside, it is the analysis of the past and the declaration of love. The artist realizes that art has wrenched him out of his usual life and alienated him from his parents. Therefore, he used it to get closer to them.
So now that we get to know all of that, let's also submerge ourselves with knowledge in knowing what are the characteristics of pop art. First characteristic is that the art uses recognizable imagery that includes soup cans, road signs, celebrity pictures, newspapers, and other products prominent in the commercial sector. Also, brand names and logos were used. Second is that artists appropriate images from mass media, and that includes a famous pop culture people that are easy to identify. So third characteristic is that pop art incorporates bright colors. The primary colors are red, yellow, and blue were key pigments that featured in many great works, notably the work of Roy Lichtenstein. So fourth characteristic is that pop art is laced with irony and satire, features that artists utilize in their subject matter to make a point about current events, mock fads, and question the existing code. So pop artists use innovative techniques that can make their works be quickly reproduced. Andy Warhol utilized silkscreen printing. Meanwhile, Roy Lichtenstein's unique visual style was achieved by lithography, or printing from a metal plate or stone. So the sixth characteristic is that pop artists often combine elements and employed a range of mediums, such as Robert Rauschenberg, whose works foreshadow the pop art trend. We also have Tom Wesselman and Richard Hamilton, two pop artists, blend apparently similar elements on a single canvas to create a kind of like a contemporary narrative. And the last characteristic is that repetition. Pop artists frequently repeated the same image all over again in a single work of art, as some uses screen printing or technology utilized in mass production, all while others meticulously painted band-aid dots to resemble the look of graphics in printed comic strips. So that is all for today, and we hope that you reach the end of this presentation with a bag of knowledge that you get to learn from us. Thank you for listening, and we hope that you will be able to retain all of the learnings that you gain from us. Thank you.